meet me at the dark. Finally, I can see you.
So when I first developed the ribbon work, I was really, it was really by accident. I know artists aren't really supposed to, like admit those kinds of things, but I was kind of frustrated. I was in the studio, maybe throwing a little bit of a temper tantrum, because artists do things like that when you take away their favorite medium. I was suffering from a hand injury, and I basically had lost the use of my hands for about a year. I literally could not sign my name on a piece of paper. So I'm throwing things around, and I'm scraping boards and destroying things, and I look down, and suddenly I have this pile of wax in my hands, and I thought, that's really interesting. I can do something with that. And so I worked with that for 5 years, and got a lot of interest, and really got bored with it. And so a friend of mine said, what I really want to do is just lie back and sink into this piece, let it envelop me. And instantly the work changed into something different. I transformed into these expansive three-dimensional systems. And I could see the work spreading out of a corner, stretching across a room, a sandy beach. And I suddenly had a voice for everything that I wanted to say and hadn't been able to. So my work is really about expressing the love that I have for the planet and the amazing variety of life that inhabits it. I'm endlessly fascinated with the different types of forms that these inhabitants basically take. I'm also really interested in the dynamics of biodiversity and the relationships that end up developing between different species and how they interact with each other, and how those relationships really mirror what's going on in the urban environment. In April, I'm going to be starting a residency at the McCall Center. Sorry, I'm not a public speaker. And I'll be continuing my work, developing it into actual freestanding sculptures, taking the pieces off the wall and creating a life of their own. I'm really excited because this particular work is going to be incorporating new materials, and is going to kind of take off where I feel like the work has kind of stopped. Beeswax is a natural product of the environment, and it's beautiful. It has a sensual feel to it that you just don't get with anything else. But it's not really telling the whole story of what's going on in the environment. And so I'm going to start incorporating single-use and recyclable plastics to create a more expansive representation of our environment. After the residency, late fall-ish, my partner Kevin and I are actually going to be embarking on the next step of the work, which is going to be sailing around the world. We're going to basically be visiting different biodiverse hotspots and meeting with local residents, areas that are undergoing some type of transitional change because of whatever, global warming, overfishing, that type of thing. Meeting with researchers who are local, and then developing new work and site-specific installations to reflect what's going on there. We don't really know how to sail, but I have confidence that based on our experiences, which were at times quite harrowing on Lake Norman, that we will be able to figure this out. It'll be fine. I have complete confidence in this. But sailing was really, it was kind of like the obvious way to go, because it puts you in touch with the environment in the way that no other mode of transportation or really lifestyle, I think, puts you in. We live a life, and we're so divorced from the environment around us. We live in urban environments that are sculpted and they're carefully crafted, and they don't feel organic anymore. And so I'm really looking forward to this trip, because you're not just, you're just not there. You are there, and it's kind of becomes one of these issues of you have to go with it because you can't fight it. You can't fight being on the ocean because you're going to lose. So we're going to do it. It'll be interesting. And part of the reason why I do this is because I want to see the development. I find inspiration in the developments that are really being made around the world to help us to prevent, what at times looks like pretty dire circumstances. Seaweed that is being used to create plastics to replace petrochemical-based plastics. The glass skins of buildings that are becoming the energy sources for those buildings. I think that there's tremendous inspiration and potential in that. And so I want to see that, and I want to interpret it, and I want to reflect that in my work. And part of the reason why I work in wax is because I was destined to do it. I really believe that. I don't know, don't ask me why, but part of it is because I have an amazing ability to tolerate wax burns. It is a fascinating thing, but I really do. I can totally tolerate wax burns. And one other odd little, tip of information about this kind of work is Everclear is a phenomenal buffer. And so that on my tax receipts, that is what that's for. So, thank you.